We are going to start off with the first things first. When the teachers switched to all online teaching earlier this year, the biggest concern was, how do I know my students are learning what I'm teaching online? The tools and the strategies I've been using on campus have suddenly disappeared. So let me start off with the word of confidence. The students acquire new knowledge, new learning, much the same way they used to learn in class. The theories of learning are still relevant. We're going to start off with revisiting the three major theories of learning, although there are many more out there, but these three have stood the test of time so far. And these three are behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. I'm pretty sure that most teachers who have gone through teacher training programs or have gone through teacher training colleges, universities, they are at least familiar with these terms: behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. We'll go over these three major theories of learning one by one a little deeper. So let's start off, with behaviorism. The two main names that are associated with behaviorism are B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov. What behaviorism does is very simple. The theorists B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov, they theorized that people learn because they are given a stimulus, and at the end of that stimulus, there's a reward that is expected. There is a certain reward, they would get at the end of that learning. Ivan Pavlov actually experimented with dogs. So the dog got a whistle or some sort of a stimulus, and when the dog came and the dog was given a treat, after some time, when he repeated this experiment a couple of times, the dog would actually start salivating at the sound of that bell or that whistle that he was experimenting with. So Ivan Pavlov and later on B.F. Skinner theorized that people learn new things or new skills for certain rewards at the end. So that is the major motivation of learning. So what behaviorism does, that a certain performance is expected so that you could get a better grade at the end, a certain amount or quality of work is expected on an exam so that you could get get ahead in your career, or you can get admission in a better college. So behaviorism induces certain expectations in students mainly through repetition. And if you look at some of the examples of behaviorism, the positive reinforcements like you're doing a great job or good work makes you feel better. So you feel like repeating that performance through additional effort, through additional focus. Negative reinforcements, on the other hand, discourage you from certain behaviors. If a teacher wants you to stay quiet in a class, he will take certain points off, or she will take certain number of points off. That is a negative reinforcement to discourage you from showing certain behaviors. Another example of behaviorist theory of learning is in the teaching of phonics. In phonics practice, repetition, you create certain sounds. Once you're able to create that sound of a consonant or a vowel, you are given a reward, or you're given applause, or you are and given thumbs up. Autistic children and the teaching strategies, the lessons for autistic children are the great examples of behaviorist learning, wherein the students are encouraged to behave certain ways or act certain ways. So, bottom line is focus, effort, hard work, better effort would translate into better grades, and that is the motivation. How can we apply classroom technology if we are to follow the behaviorist theory of learning? If we are as a teacher, if I want to enforce a certain behavior in my students, so what kind of some examples of classroom technology that I can use? Fill in the blanks is a great example of the behaviorist form of teaching and learning. You have all the clues in there, in the form of a sentence or in the form of the adjoining sentences, and you fill in the blanks. Your memory is activated, and you get rewarded with a yes or no answer. The correct and incorrect answers, that the green light suddenly the green light pops off, or the box on a Google form certainly turns green, and that shows that you have answered it correctly. Or a red box or an X shows that was an incorrect answer. The clues in answer games are also a form of behaviorist theory of learning in classroom technology. You give certain clues, and the students, give answers based upon certain clues. So every time there's a clue, there is an answer that comes, and at the end of that activity or answer, there is a reward in the form of whatever the teacher decides. Online competitive games like Kahoots and Socrates, these are the examples of rewards at the end of that, whether these are individual rewards or team rewards. These also induce a behaviorist kind of a mode of teaching and learning. Behavioral management software. There are many software which reward students for certain behaviors. If you finish this time online, those timers on top of your quizzes and assessments, these are these follow the behaviorist school of teaching and learning. Social emotional learning software. Also, to induce empathy, you give examples of certain actions, and students repeat those examples every time you repeat a certain action of empathy or care or mindfulness. You are rewarded in a certain way. The software like Calm, meditation software, these are all examples of behaviorist use of technology in classrooms. A certain music in the background, should bring you in a certain state of mind. That is a behaviorist way of teaching students. And finally, when students accrue those digital badges or digital stickers, these are all following the behaviorist school of technology. There is no one school of learning or the theories of learning that we will promote here. We're trying to find any theory of learning that you adhere to, or a combination of these theories of learning. There is a technology available, and that is the substance of discussion in our subsequent lectures. Now, we are moving on to the second theory of learning, cognitivism. The two names that are mainly associated with cognitivism are Edward Tolman and Jean Piaget. What they say that cognitivism is something to do with brain. It's a mental process. Learning is a mental process. is not a behavior. It's not something that you do repeatedly and you learn something. They say people acquire new knowledge by processing the new knowledge, with the existing knowledge in their brains. They adapt to a new learning. And the biggest example that comes to my mind is at one point, let's say, for example, I believed in the earth is flat. And suddenly somebody comes in, goes afar with some kind of a telescope and says, no, the earth is round. And he gives the evidence for earth being round. So now suddenly my mental process, the existing knowledge, the existing belief that I had, has to adapt to a new knowledge or a new information. And cognitivism relies on that constant processing of new information and what you call the existing information, which is the schema. This is what I know about. The earth is flat. And suddenly somebody comes in and says, no, it's not flat. It creates sort of a disequilibrium to my state of knowledge, to my state of knowing, because there's new information there now and there is an evidence for that. So now I would have to make some adjustment to my belief, to my existing knowledge, and that is the accommodation. Now, once I have made that accommodation to, all right, now I believe, all right, the earth is round. So now I'm in a new state of equilibrium until some new evidence comes in and it throws off that new learning also. So the cognitivism is all about the process of mental process. Another example of cognitivism is Bloom's taxonomy. The three main domains in Bloom's taxonomy revolve around thinking and assimilating, your reaction, your feelings to your knowledge. You have certain religious belief, and you are associated with this. You have certain cultural belief, and now you are in a new community or new knowledge about culture or religion, and that affects your existing beliefs in an emotional way. It is kind of jolts your feelings. And that's what we call the cognitive dissonance, meaning my existing beliefs, my existing knowledge is being jolted with this new information. And so I would have to now do something about it and change my existing knowledge and existing beliefs so that now I can move on to something else. So Bloom's taxonomy is a great example of cognitive way of learning. And some of the examples we can use, we know of the cognitive use in class, cognitive learning theory in class is the use of artificial intelligence. A lot of data, it's all based on data. So we are taking this human brain and putting it into computers and taking to the next level based upon the existing amount of data. Your computer now produces new output or new product based upon all the information that you put in here, and that is what this computer's brain is being used to replace the human brain, and artificial intelligence is an example of cognitivist theory of learning. Adaptive learning is another great example. Adaptive learning is wherein you create individualized lessons. The technology adjusts itself. The complexity of a test or complexity of a lesson based upon students' responses. So adaptive learning, whether you need to follow up your existing lesson with a higher order thinking lesson, or based upon your existing responses you want to go to a lower order thinking questions or tasks subsequently. That is adaptive learning. Instructional design at any level, whether it's at the level of curriculum, or at the level of an assessment, or at the level of a lesson, uh, also takes into account or can take into account the cognitive mental processes, and then design the tasks or the challenges based upon what is expected of a student. Bloom's taxonomy, I gave the example before, and then finally we have the complex form of learning, like reasoning, the problem solving, and information production. These are all examples of the higher order cognitive processes, and some of the examples that we can use in classroom for cognitivist classroom technology are the the software that engage students actively, the active learner technologies, wherein students do hands-on simulation, they drag and drop. The biggest example of active learner involvement technologies are video games. Students use the video games in which students are actually involved, constantly engaging themselves with the software, constantly engaging with the challenges and the targets, and they move accordingly. So active learner involvement is the example of classroom use of technology. Organizing information, sequencing information, and summarizing the given information is also the classroom example the example of classroom technology use based on cognitivist theory of learning. Puzzles, crosswords, escape rooms, strategy games, these are all examples of cognitivist cognitive theory of learning. And then finally we have the web quests. Web quests, wherein students are given tasks and they do their own research on the internet. They hop from website to website, from information source to information source. All these are examples of the cognitivist the theories of learning in classroom. And now, finally, we are on to the third most predominant theory of learning, called constructivism. And the names that are associated with are John Dewey, Jerome Bruner, Lev Vygotsky, and I've also asterisked, if you look at that, I've put an asterisk on Jean Piaget. He's in here too, because he combined his cognitivist learning and called cognitive constructivism. So he combined the two into one theory of learning. So the constructivists think that learning is a social process. People learn in consultation with, in association with their society, with other people, with the people around them, in consultation, with other classmates, with the group members, and all knowledge is contextual. In order for me to learn something, it must be contextual. It must be useful to my society, to my future, and to my progress, and to my beliefs, to my liking, and all that. So that is why I learn, and that's how I learn. If you give me something that is relevant to my needs or my likes, my dislikes, I learn through that way. So in this case, the examples like group discussion in a classroom, wherein you are interacting with each other, the conferences, those network groups, these Zoom classes, these small group discussions, breakout rooms. These are all examples of constructivist way of learning. In this, because this is social and contextual, field trips and visit to the primary sources of some information, these are examples of constructivist learning. Reciprocal teaching, in which you learn from each other. You're given the opportunity to teach others, and you learn from your classmates, you learn from your group members. This is how you construct new knowledge, brick by brick. You go back and forth. You argue your beliefs. You argue your existing knowledge, and try to either win over others, or you just give in and you accept the other's position. Project-based learnings, in which multiple people involved in large projects and small projects, each one contributing their expertise, and you learn by observing others' contribution and sharing your own contribution to a project. That's how to learn. Apprenticeships, again, this is learning by observation. You observe a leader, you observe a coach or a mentor, how these things are done, and that's how constructivists teach and learn. Some of the classroom technologies that can be used in constructivism: filmmaking. Large groups are usually involved. There's a cameraman, there's a story maker, there's a sound engineer, and there's a lights man, and you're all interdependent, and you are learning from each other's specialties or skills. This is how we learn. Virtual reality games. I'm a great fan of VR games. Virtual realities, even when you are alone in a virtual reality game and you're playing it by yourself with a headset around your head, but you're still in a virtual environment. You're interacting with other people, and you are on site. You are visiting places. You are in a museum, or you are playing a game with others. These are the examples of classroom use of the constructivist technologies. Interactive hyperdocs, when people move from a website to a video. From there, they were going to move on to a game, or to next step. They're going to move on to a competition, an online competition. All these are examples of constructivist forms of mind maps, wherein you create different kinds of webs, networks to other people's contributions or to other sources of information. These are examples of classroom use of constructivist technologies. Presentations in front of others, presentation online or through distance learning software. These are all examples of constructivist technology. And finally, we have simulations. You simulate and you demonstrate your simulative software to others, how to operate on a cadaver in a simulated environment, or how to use the FET simulations. We'll discuss later on in the subsequent lectures. We'll go over all of those. So this brings us to the end of our discussion on the theories of learning, and we'll go over now the technologies and the strategies of aligning those technologies, with these theories of learning. And like we said, it doesn't matter which theory of learning you are incorporating, or which theories of learning you yourself believe in. There are technologies and there are strategies which we'll discuss, and we will try to align those technologies and those strategies with these theories of learning. Until then, bye-bye.